now let's go ahead and copy and save. Okay. I'm gonna just, let's see here. Save is a big one. Okay. And let's see. I'm gonna go procedure to procedure. Okay, there we go. All right, so I'm gonna come over here and we can take and delete that and we'll paste this guy in. Okay, so now I thought I had that fixed. Okay. All right, moving along. So we have our save. Well, we really don't need that in there. It's an assumed. You can always send back a numeric. Okay, so we define some fields up here. We begin our pass fail, and then we're going to run our validate, which here is now a person validate, and you are a person. Okay, save. And we're going to say if person validate is false, and this is the class that we bring in here, then we're going to return false and we're done. Okay, so they'll get the message from down in the person validate, and then they'll return to the screen to fix their issue. Okay, and that message will list all the errors that we found wrong in their data. So now, here's where we get a little tricky in doing this. So if I don't want to collapse it, I guess. Okay, let's first look at the insert. So if state is new, then what we want to do is insert. We're going to insert a record into table name. Okay, so this is insert into person. And then the fields have to be in parenthesis block. And it's field, comma, field, comma, field until you're done with fields and no more commas. And then you do a values, and this is in a parenthesis block as well. And since we're going to be passing names in, we have a question mark, comma, question mark. First question mark goes with name, and he would be 0. Second question mark, or 1, is going to go with age. So if we come up here and we have set database string, 0 is name, set database long, field 1, so that's our second field, is the long of age. Okay, so then what's he going to do? He's going to return the pass fail. He's going to load pass fail with the update command from our database helper, where we pass him the ID. We opened our database right here at the top. Okay, and then we're going to supply him our SQL. So if pass fail comes back as true, then there's no error in our code. So we are good to assume that we have inserted a record into the database. Otherwise, it's going to give you a false, and it will fail your data based on duplicate transaction or whatever else. Okay, so the first thing we want to do to class, remember, class's state is new, right? Well, we want to flip that state to being clean, because now we are in synchronization with our with our database. The second thing we want to do is that we know our class ID was initialized with 0. So now he's got the number 47 or 812 or whatever his ID is, that auto incremented ID. So that's where our get last ID comes from. And then we pass him our same database ID, and our table name is person. So that returns the last created, right here, one sentence above, our last created ID. And then we close the database and we have inserted a record and everything's cool. Now, here's the tricky part. If it's not an insert, if it's not a create, then it's an update, right? So now Pay attention closely. Up here, we have set database string 0 as name, set long as 1 as age, and now we're going to come down here and say set long 2 as class ID. Now, let's look at our SQL. Update table, and then we're going to say set name equals question. Well, that's 0. Age equals question. So that's name equals question, comma. Age equals question, no comma. So that's 0 and 1. Where ID equals question. That's 2. So what we're doing is we're picking up these two for our update, and then we're adding a third one down here for our 3 question marks down here. And then the rest of this pretty much goes as is. We come in and say, okay, update our database. If it passes, then we set from dirty, we're going to set our state to being clean, and then we're going to close the database, and we have completely updated our data. So that's pretty slick, isn't it? There's no wasted lines of code. It's about as tight as you can get it. It's pretty slick, I think. So we can go ahead and collapse this. And what haven't we looked at? Delete. Okay, let's come down to delete. Delete's relatively a straightforward creature as well. And all right, and delete, well, that's going to introduce yet another procedure on us. Okay, we need a delete validate. So this is going to be person delete validate. All right, so let's come down here and we can say person delete validate. validate. And of course, every one of these is the same. You got to give me CLASS, our person object guide. Okay. And then let's see. Ah, goodness gracious. My goodness. PROCED. Okay, there you go. And we can come into here. Let's get us some space. And we can say end PROC. And I'm not really sure why I typed all that. I guess because it's kind of fun too. And I'm going to come over here and copy a block of code in. Okay. So, and most of this code I'm copying in is commented out because the thought is I have no idea what we're going to eventually have here. And so right now we have one table. So if we delete, let's go ahead and look at our delete first. So let's come in here and say, okay, we're going to have a delete validate. If delete validate is false, then we return false. You can't delete the record. So let's come down here. Well, we're setting up just like on the last time that false is true. Error message is nothing. Now, the whole SQL query is commented out, and it will always read true and pass back true. Now, and for this table, that's exactly what we want it to do, because this is our entire database is only one table. There's no relationships yet. There's no tables linking with other tables. So think in terms of a parent-child table where you have a person and then person has children, okay? So you have multiple children down here underneath the parent. So if you delete the parent, what happens to the children that are linked to them? Okay? The records are all of a sudden orphaned. They don't have their parents anymore, okay? It's a bad situation. So what you want to do in a delete validate is when you have these sorts of relationships, and every database you ever build in your life will be unique in its relationships of tables, then you want to actually come into delete validate and say, hey, does that parent have children? And if he's got children, dude, you can't delete the parent until you delete the children. Okay? So that's what this SQL's, the concept of this SQL is. We're going to get a count from a table where the parent ID equals the parent ID, the ID of the class up here. Okay? And if that comes back greater than 0, then yes, he has children. You can't delete him. So this is all dummied out because only the author of the application knows the structure. So only you as the developer can ever fill that in. But it's here as a dummy. You can, it really needs to be there, but eventually you'll fill it out. So let's come up here and finish the delete because it came back true. We're going to open our database. We're going to go ahead and we know there's going to be a question involved, a question mark. Sure enough, here he is. And the SQL code is delete from table where ID equals whatever this ID is. All right. And that will delete the record. That's our SQL syntax. And then we get the result from passing to update. We pass him our ID that we just opened, pass him the SQL, everything's fine, close the database and return the results. So there's our delete. So that covers just about everything there is on the database, but there's still something missing. So what I'm going to do is copy in one more procedure for you. And I want you to think about it because this is important. And let me find it here. Where are you? No, not you. Here you are. You're right there. All right, we'll come down to your end procedure. All right, so we're going to copy this beast in here. You got one more procedure in here. All right, now let's come up here and we're going to need to uniqueify this and say person. Okay, so what we're going to do is build a load list icon. So you pass me a list icon gadget. So you know that numeric ID pound gadget underscore field name or table name list icon whatever. That's him. Pass him in right there as an integer. Okay. Now what we're going to do here is clear all the gadget items out of it. We're going to remove all the columns out of it. And then we're going to come in and say, hey, dude, we want this. What was that number? Do you remember? I'm thinking it was 155. Okay. So we're going to say add a column to this list icon, and it will be column 0. And we want his title to be name, and we want him to be 155 wide. And then we're going to use that list icon helper guy again for our justification of our data. So we want him to be left justified, which actually is the default. So you don't need that sentence, but you know what? If you wanted to say column center, we could center all those names now in that column. Isn't that pretty cool? Okay, let's go look at our SQL. So we're going to select name and ID. Kind of interesting order, isn't it? I would have thought we would have done ID and name, but it doesn't matter because we pick things up by their column names. Okay, so we're going to select fields from table, and we're going to order it by name. Okay. Now we come down here and we open our database. We're going to come in here and run our query. We're going to get our result. If our result is true or greater than false, then again, this is a query. He loads our database rows for us of our table, and then we can spin through this table and we can add a gadget item at the bottom to our list icon, and then get the string from our database table here of the column name, and we can add a line feed after it. Remember, you can have many of these that actually get concatenated together. So we're going to say, okay, just add a line feed at the end. And now we're going to set this record we just added, which is going to be in our list icon. We're going to count up the number of records in there, -1, because this is 0 based. And then we're going to say that ID that we got up there, stick that ID into the data field of that item. So this is setting the gadget item data. All right. So each individual record of our list icon gadget now carries with it in the item data field on the row the key to our database. Okay. And then we're going to close the database, and everything's going to go back, and everybody's going to be happy, and they'll be singing and dancing and partying. Okay. So now for the dreaded thing. Nothing is in order by way of coming in and saying, okay, I now have to declare person, okay, person dispose. All right, who else is out of order? Person dispose, and he's got to have this. Okay. So who else is backwards? And that is going to be, I'm gonna really cheat. My base rule of life is if you got a procedure, you put it at the top up here. So we're gonna say validate, because we have validate below update, and we have delete validate. Delete validate below delete. So all the rest of these are onesies. If it only matters save, calls validate, delete, calls validate, or delete validate, and init calls dispose. Okay? So theoretically, that's all I need to enter, and I know this video is getting, oh my God, long. So we're good here. We need to come over to this guy, and we have our include person DB. I hate that being a global. Let me just say no to this. And let's come up here, and let's bring him over to employee. I'm thinking it belongs over here, but probably not as a global. Well, all right, it doesn't matter. It can be there or here. I'm trying to decrease how much code we got to mess with here. We no longer need to do this whole procedure. We're not using our list. There is no list anymore. Let's go ahead and get rid of this. We no longer have, let's see, this guy's gone, right? Okay. So now we have our situation here, and we're going to call person. What is it? Load list icon. And what is our list icon on our screen? I don't remember, but I know I can find it. Gadget, FRM main, and AIN, and there you are. So, whoops, goodness. So there we go. We pass him down there, and he's going to go out to our database, load him all up, and put him on the screen for us. So we're done there. Let's see. Index, let's jump we need to go to these guys and make sure that we got all this code straight. So we don't need shared, so we bring him in, that's okay. And we don't want to do that. We want to call person init, and we can say ampersand selected selected employee, right? So that initializes him. So he's done. So then find employee, or this is the employee modify. Yeah, that's going to be great. So this is going to still be employee set screen down here. But what we want to do is say, okay, let's go with this was person find, and we have an index. Interesting. Okay. So then we can say ampersand ECTED selected employee. So now we have the index, right? So we can say ID equals, so that means we got to come up here and say protected ID. So we can say ID equals, and we're going to pass ID here, because that's our ID we're going to get, is going to be get gadget item data. Remember, when we loaded that up, we put the ID in the get gadget item data of what? Gadget FRM main and list icon. And at what spot? At index. INDEX. My dyslexia is kicking in. Okay, so that gets us our ID. And then we find our data, we load it into this guy, and then we call the screen up there. So what happens down here? Well, there's no any of this junk. That's all gone. And what we need to do is say this again. So let's come down here because we're going to need the ID. No, I don't need the ID. Yes, we're going to need the ID. Okay, so we're going to come into this. So we can say ID, whoops, ID, and we can say shared, oh, not you. I don't think we have to share the selected employee, right? So I think we can just, if we find our selected ID guy, right? So now we have our global variable there. He's loaded with person. So we can say confirm delete of, and you can get real fancy in here because now we have his name. We can say selected employee name. Are you sure you want to delete? Confirm George's delete, right? Okay, that's kind of cool. And then down here, well, we're not calling deleting elements or any of that junk anymore. We're going to say person, and we're going to say delete, and we're just going to pass our employee. Okay. And then at the end of that, what are we going to do? Well, we need to reload the list, right? So we can say person load list icon, and we give him our list icon back, our gadget. So we've deleted the record out of the database. You could do it this way, or you can simply come in here and say, what is it? Remove, is it? Remove gadget item, and then our gadget itself, and then index. So then that deletes it out of the table and you didn't have to rebuild the world. So if you got a million records in there, that you don't um, it doesn't recreate the world.